In previous lessons, we've explored the philosophy of Jeremy Bentham that we call utilitarianism, a philosophy that says that the principle of morality is the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Jeremy Bentham's utilitarianism synthesized and systematized a number of strands of Enlightenment philosophy that had their roots in ancient Epicureanism, but had been transformed in the context of the Age of Reason. Bentham's utilitarianism is in some ways, ironically, like the American Revolution, in that it's perched between the Enlightenment and the Age of Markets, between the 18th and the 19th centuries. His first publication, Bentham's first major publication, is a fragment on government, published in 1776, the same year as the American Declaration of Independence, and the same year as the publication of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations. So there's something symbolic about this transition from Enlightenment to the Age of Markets. And Bentham's philosophy is based on this happiness principle, but he comes to call it utilitarianism. And there's something deeply symbolic about that change as well. If happiness was the central term, an essentially contested term that suffuses Enlightenment thought, the meaning of happiness is a perennial question in the Age of Reason. So utility will become a crucial term in the 19th and 20th centuries. Bentham's utility, as he expresses it, is a term that subsumes all measures of the good, of happiness, into one term, utility, which for him means not usefulness, but the sum total of pleasures minus pains. So Bentham's utility is grounded in a maximizing idea of pleasure. And there's something deeply symbolic about that shift from an ancient language of happiness that went back to the ancient worlds, the Stoics and the Epicureans, even back to Socrates and the Sophists, and debates over what made for a happy life. What was happiness, virtue or pleasure? Runs through the ancient world, through the Age of Reason. But in the philosophy of Jeremy Bentham, all of this would be collapsed into the single term utility, which was a measure of pleasure, a calculus of pleasures. And Bentham's utilitarianism would deeply resonate in the 19th century. Indeed, it's no accident that John Stuart Mill, the disciple of Bentham and the greatest of the utilitarian philosophers, is among the classical economists. He's among that set of economists that includes Adam Smith, David Ricardo, and, in a different way, Karl Marx. And Mill's utilitarianism, which is grounded, like Bentham's, on the principle of happiness as a measure of utility, as a sum of pleasure, is part of his outlook, his economic outlook, which is, like the other classical economists, looking for the meaning of value. And in this lesson, we'll see how the search for value, organized around the idea of utility, will eventually come to resolve the paradoxes and the flaws that are dominant throughout the classical economists, from Smith to Marx. And that resolution, the solution of the problems of prices and values, is profoundly characteristic of the later 19th century and mature industrial capitalism. And it allows us to ask if Smith and Marx are right in their accounts of distributive and transactional justice, because you can't begin to answer those questions without a true understanding of what value is and how prices work.